Well, as we pick up the pieces following what was a fantastic finish to the 49ers regular season, it's important to sit back and look at the big picture and say, wow, the 49ers did actually know what they were doing when they crafted this 2021 quarterback plan, despite what a lot of hot takers and what a lot of social media insisted up until the very bitter end. Nobody wanted to admit that they were wrong. Well, now they finally have to admit that they're wrong. The 49ers two-quarterback system this year, and I don't mean that in that they were rotating quarterbacks liberally, but the fact that they had two capable quarterbacks, the fact that they decided to invest in both Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance in 2021, that worked. And it worked to near perfection. This was a dual quarterback track for the 49ers with dueling goals, right? You had a short-term goal for 2021 and you had a long-term goal for the bigger future. And the 49ers were trying to juggle and balance both of those things at once. The short-term track obviously was going to be dominated by Jimmy Garoppolo because he was the best option to win now. The long-term track is focused on Trey Lance because he has the prodigious physical skill set that the 49ers can theoretically develop into something awesome down the line, but it's not quite ready yet. And then the 2021 track would be buoyed by Trey Lance because the 49ers would have greater insulation in the quarterback room in case of injury. So you had two separate tracks, but they were intertwined in a way. And it's impossible to argue now that the 49ers are in the playoffs thanks to both Jimmy Garoppolo and a sprinkling of Trey Lance. It's impossible to argue that that was not a sound plan because the 49ers are winning now and they're set up for more success in the future. We've seen Trey Lance already this year improve. We saw him in week 5 against Arizona, and we saw him again in week 17 against the Houston Texans. And it was very clear that in the 3 months between those two starts, he made a lot of progress on the 49ers scout team. So that was the goal. The goal was to win under Jimmy Garoppolo while developing Trey Lance and using Trey Lance as insurance for 2021. You can check all 3 boxes off the list as the 49ers move on to face the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. So, I want to go through some of the politics surrounding this quarterback situation, especially the perception of it on social media, to really set the record straight now that the 49ers are where they are following Jimmy Garoppolo's excellent performance with a torn-up thumb against the Los Angeles Rams. That was one of the gutsy performances in 49ers history. It's going to go down in franchise lore. There's no way around it. I mean, you still have people on Twitter who try to go, they kind of just stumble over their words because they're so angry. They're so angry that their own team starting quarterback delivered a special moment that they can't process it because they'd rather be correct and have the 49ers lose than be wrong and have the 49ers win. Well, at the end of the day, it comes down to this. Some are compelled to blame Garoppolo for everything that goes wrong without crediting him for anything that goes right. So every single time that the 49ers do something good, like they obviously did down the stretch of that game against the Rams, it can't possibly be because of Jimmy Garoppolo. It's only because of his receivers. It's only because of the run game. It's only because of the defense. And all those arguments are complete garbage. The 49ers threw the ball 32, 33 times yesterday. So think about the narratives surrounding Jimmy Garoppolo. 49ers can't win when he throws more than 30 times. That was debunked against the Rams. It was debunked against Cincinnati. I mean, in 2017, Garoppolo averaged 35 throws per game, and the 49ers went 5-0 over that stretch. So, I mean, that's a trash take. Another trash take is that he can't throw outside the numbers. The biggest third downs of the game yesterday came outside the numbers to Jawan Jennings. Garoppolo's probably most clutch throw of his 49ers career. I mean, there have been many clutch throws, but one of the most clutch ones was to Deebo Samuel outside the numbers down the sideline. And he did it with a torn ligament in his thumb. The quicker the people realize that Kyle Shanahan runs a scheme and Jimmy Garoppolo's there to execute it. And when Jimmy Garoppolo's on, he executes it very well. The more quickly they'll sound like smart football fans and smart analysts. Because quarterbacks everywhere, their job is to execute a scheme. And the 49ers, when they're at, a cohesive state, the meld between Garoppolo and Shanahan is extremely impressive. And that's what we saw down the stretch yesterday. Some of the criticism here, I mean, yes, Jimmy Garoppolo throws interceptions. He threw 2 more yesterday. He also got drilled on both of those picks, especially the first one. You could blame more on the pass protection than on the quarterback himself. You have to be able to protect the quarterback. But even then, there is one statistical weakness in Garoppolo's game, and it is a below average interception rate. And by below average, I mean higher than what the league mean is as far as interception rate goes. He threw picks during this regular season on 2.7% of his throwing attempts, which ranks like number 18 or number 19. It's slightly below average in the league. It's actually exactly what Garoppolo's 2019 interception rate was. But even despite that slightly higher than average interception rate, Jimmy Garoppolo has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in football. So he's been able to, on the aggregate, overcome the interceptions. Here's EPA per play, top 5 quarterbacks: Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady, Stafford, Garoppolo. Am I sitting here saying that Garoppolo is a top 5 quarterback, whatever the hell that means? It's such a pie in the sky term. No, I'm saying that Jimmy Garoppolo, within Kyle Shanahan's system, is doing the job that he's being asked to do, and that's to execute Kyle Shanahan's system, and he's doing it with top 5 efficiency. The 49ers ranked number 5 in offensive DVOA this season, which marked the first time under Kyle Shanahan that they finished in the top 5. And it was absolutely necessary for this team to make the playoffs because the defense was good, but not great. And it hadn't improved to get to a good level over the course of the season. And the special teams were terrible. So the offense had to lead the way for this team. And Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback who's the executor, the lead member of that offense. He's the point guard. He's the pivot point. I don't care if he has good talent around him. He has to get the ball to that talent. He has to overcome the fact that yesterday the 49ers were playing both backup offensive tackles, and he has to set his receivers up for yards after the catch, even when he's got a torn up thumb. And he did that job, and he did it consistently over the course of this season to be able to register an EPA per play that actually tied Matthew Stafford, which I thought was poetic. Any intelligent football observer is going to judge a quarterback based on his cohesion with the play caller. They're not going to sit here and jealously try to take away accomplishments and attributes by trying to divvy up credit in some weird way and assign it to somebody else. No, you look at football for what it is, and that's a team sport. A quarterback distributes the ball to schematically opened receivers. Yes, every coach is going to try to scheme open receivers. Joe Montana wouldn't have been as good without Jerry Rice. Steve Young, you could say the same thing about him. Those guys both worked with 2 of the great offensive innovators that the game of football has ever seen, and Bill Walsh and Mike Shanahan. So, of course, they made the quarterbacks better. Of course, the talent on the 49ers helped those guys, just like it does today. Jimmy Garoppolo's throwing to Deebo Samuel. He's throwing to George Kittle. He's throwing to Jawan Jennings, who was awesome for the 49ers. He's handing off to Elijah Mitchell. It's Garoppolo's job to get the ball to those guys, and it's Shanahan's job to get those guys schemed open in space, and it's the job of the entire collective to make the individual efforts cohesive on the same page so that the 49ers offense sings. And that's why we look at these cumulative EPA stats. If Garoppolo's in the top 5, he's doing his job within the context of the 49ers offense. If the 49ers offense is ranked in the top 5 as it finished here in 2019, well, they're doing their job as well. Red zone touchdown percentage. 49ers finished number 1 in the NFL, just ahead of Tampa Bay. They needed that final Garoppolo to Jennings touchdown pass. Here's another point right here. You see so much of this I don't want to say baseless criticism, because obviously Garoppolo deserves criticism for where he does have shortcomings, but people take stuff in a vacuum and think they sound smart on the internet when they aren't. And every quarterback struggles when his offensive line isn't pass protecting well. This was a huge issue as far as bad takes went yesterday. I wonder how many people had to delete their tweets about Jimmy Garoppolo after the first half, calling for a benching when he's playing behind 2 backup offensive tackles and getting drilled with his thumb injury in the first half. I mean, he didn't have a chance on a lot of those drives. The 49ers couldn't get the run game going. They couldn't, protect long enough for Garoppolo to throw downfield. And it wasn't until the 2-minute drive at the end of the first half when he finally was able to get some time, start putting the Rams defense back on their heels, and set himself up for a good second half. And just like clockwork, it was magic. I tweeted at halftime around, maybe even before the 2-minute drill, I tweeted, if the 49ers can protect Garoppolo, his throws are looking fine. He was like 9 of 12 in the first half, with the 3 incompletions be all coming on plays where he was heavily pressured, including that interception where he got hit coming up the middle. Well, lo and behold, second half comes, protection is good. Garoppolo led the 49ers to victory with over 300 passing yards. So a lot of narratives were debunked. And the bottom line is that Garoppolo has delivered top 5 efficiency this season, and that is the goal. And when you look at the overarching goals of the 49ers quarterback room, they were to A, play efficient football, top 5 offensive football this year, check mark. They did that. Goal number 2 was to prepare Trey Lance for the long term. Check mark. The 49ers got that job done here in 2021. He got 2.5 games of experience, but mostly he was on that scout team and he got a lot better from week 5 to week 17. Those are the 2 checkpoints that we use because those are the 2 starts that Trey Lance had. He came into the NFL with only 318 career starts. And for anybody who goes out there and says, oh, you defend Jimmy Garoppolo too much, you're only looking at Garoppolo. Guess who recommended for the 49ers to draft Trey Lance a year ago, last January, before the trade? I thought that Garoppolo's inavailability due to injuries was significantly hampering the 49ers. And I also looked at his contract and the fact he only had 2 years left on his deal, that the 49ers were up against the salary cap, and that they might be able to add QB mobility to the mix over the long term on a cheap rookie deal. And I saw Trey Lance as moldable clay that the 49ers should draft. The 49ers obviously did end up trading up and drafting Trey Lance. But even for somebody like me who advocated at the very start of this that the 49ers should draft Trey Lance, I realized that it wouldn't make sense for him to take the reins in 2021. So that's why the dual track quarterback system came in. Right? You had Lance developing behind the scenes, maybe helping out a little bit wherever it fit for the 49ers this season, while you still acknowledged that Jimmy Garoppolo was a good quarterback, a guy that could give you top-level efficiency in the short term. And he might even be able to give the 49ers top-level efficiency in 2022. Now, because of financial realities and because of the fact that Trey Lance is progressing, I don't know if that's likely. We'll see how these playoffs unfold. The 49ers don't have to make a decision until they actually reach the bridge they need to cross. But the point is that you had one guy that was going to be good for now, and you had one guy that was going to be hopefully developed later. And then you could maybe even mix 2 of those paths so you didn't run into the same problem that you did in 2018 and 2020. And that was that the 49ers were screwed when Garoppolo got hurt. This season, they weren't screwed when Garoppolo got hurt. Maybe they were a little bit in week 5 against the Arizona Cardinals because Lance wasn't ready yet. But by week 17, when the 49ers played the Texans, Trey Lance was ready to helm the 49ers to a victory when paired with that good defense. So it all ended up working out for the 49ers because they covered their bases at the most important position. And they took so much heat because people don't understand nuance at the quarterback position. But this is why we have the channel here, because we're talking about nuance. We're talking about the gray area. And the 49ers won in the gray area as far as QB goes. And now they're set up moving into the future. What's next for Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know. This story isn't done yet. They're going to add more chapters to this story, at least one more in Dallas. And if he keeps on delivering the way that he did in the second half against the Rams, well, then this book still may have 3 or 4 more chapters to go. And then you might even write a whole other book for 2022. But as it stands, Jimmy Garoppolo is a valuable asset for the 49ers, whether it be wearing their uniform or as a potential trade asset this offseason, because you saw Carson Wentz fetch a first-round pick. If Carson Wentz, who's coming off some poor years with Philadelphia and who delivered an unspectacular year now with Indianapolis, was able to fetch a first-round pick, a quarterback who's been clutch like Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a winner like Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, the 49ers win way more often than they lose, and for good reason, because you see the efficiency numbers. He's an efficient quarterback. He's going to be valuable to some team around this league. It might be to the 49ers. Who knows? But somewhere he's going to be valued. And that is good news for the 49ers, obviously, because they might be able to recoup some capital for him if it comes to that. But it's just way too early to discuss, I think, any of that at a deeper level, because we just don't know how this 2022 story is going to end yet, this January, February 22 story. And the dangers of proclaiming something, to be a done deal before it's actually done were on display yesterday. everybody wanted Garoppolo, not everybody. Most people wanted Garoppolo benched at halftime. He was not the main, culprit in that first half. The 49ers will go as far as their pass protection will take them. Garoppolo's proven himself. If there were any remaining questions, yesterday he proved himself. He did it with the torn ligament in his thumb. Now the 49ers need Trent Williams back, and they just need to let it rip offensively. This is a top 5 team offensively. That's been settled. Now we can move forward, hopefully without these stupid arguments and these stupid discussions. I understand it's part of the territory. They'll probably still be there. But in a resounding way, the 49ers showed that their quarterback plan was sound against the Rams. All right, guys. Let's take a look at some questions. What's your overall grade for the QB room this season? I would say B+. I think that the 49ers got development for Trey Lance in. That was obviously very important, but they got the top 5 efficiency they needed from Jimmy Garoppolo. And the reason I don't give them an A is because that efficiency was a little sporadic. He was extremely efficient in a lot of wins, but that interception rate was still a little too high, I think, for the 49ers liking, for my liking. And it did cost the 49ers games in Tennessee and against Seattle. But Jimmy Garoppolo was never the sole reason for any 49ers loss. In Seattle, the special teams threw up all over themselves. So he was still good enough to win had the 49ers been average on special teams. In Tennessee, he still was good enough to win if the 49ers hadn't given up like 7 third and long conversions on defense. So the quarterback room wasn't perfect. I didn't like the fact that the interception rate did stay at that 2.7%. I think the 49ers need it down at about 2%. We'll see if they could get it there for the playoffs. But it was damn good. Top 5 efficiency is top 5 efficiency. There's no way to argue with that. You'll see people who don't like Jimmy Garoppolo try to argue with the numbers and the efficiency numbers. You just can't. And they're going to sound ridiculous while they try to do it. They're going to twist in a pretzel to try to attack me, to try to attack anybody who says anything, reasonable about the situation. But at the end of the day, he's top 5 efficient. And that's the goal when you're the executor of Shanahan's scheme. This is a team sport, and Garoppolo's done a good job within the context of what a team sport and team offense should be. So I say B+ for the quarterback room, just, under the A because of that interception rate. All right. Let's see. Where's some more questions? Questions. Why do you think that Jimmy couldn't fit in another coach's system? I don't think that he. Are you talking to somebody else or are you asking me? If there's a chance that Jimmy Garoppolo would fit better in another system. When he first came to the 49ers in 2017, Garoppolo was a Patriot-style quarterback, right? He was working out of the gun, quick release, going to the slot. Trent Taylor was one of his favorite receivers. George Kittle made a living out of the slot. And Kyle Shanahan over the years had to, didn't have to, but it was Kyle Shanahan's choice to really mold Jimmy Garoppolo into an under center play action style quarterback. But I think Jimmy Garoppolo, especially after throwing for 5,000 yards at Eastern Illinois, after developing in his early NFL years with the New England Patriots, I think he's a shotgun guy. I think that's where he's at home. And the 49ers season turned around week 8 when the 49ers moved Garoppolo to the gun. And I think it was the game against the Rams in week 10 when he was almost exclusively working out of the gun. Now they reworked the play action, the back to the defense under center game more as the season went along. They went back to the gun a lot because of the thumb injury against the Rams. But it's one of those situations where schematically, Garoppolo has adapted to Shanahan over the years, but he's still a mystery in that we haven't seen him with extended action in any other system. And Shanahan has a very particular system for his quarterbacks. So I fully believe that it's entirely possible that Garoppolo goes elsewhere to finish out his career. And he lights it up in a gun-heavy system, which is more of a spread system, more like what he dominated in college. And, the narrative on Jimmy Garoppolo may be really different than it is for some of the people that are so negative about him right now. But the point is that for the sake of our evaluation in this year, 2022, and for the 2021 season, everything we do when we evaluate Jimmy Garoppolo comes within the backdrop and the context of Kyle Shanahan's offense. And Kyle Shanahan's offense is all about setting up yards after the catch, bully ball. The 49ers have the weapons to do it. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk is a great yak guy, right? Jawan Jennings yesterday. So if you could set those receivers up for yards after the catch, hit them in stride, you get the ball out quick because the 49ers don't have a good pass protecting offensive line. So release time is extremely important. And Jimmy Garoppolo's release time is elite, as we know. He processes it quickly and he releases the ball quickly. He gets the offensive line out of its pass protecting mode as soon as possible, which is a good thing for the 49ers. If you can do all that within the context of Kyle Shanahan's scheme, you're going to have that high EPA. And high efficiency under Kyle Shanahan's scheme is likely going to score you a lot of points, as has been the case for the 49ers this season. All right, more questions. Let's go. I'm having fun today. Having fun today. What team do you feel fits Jimmy's style of play? Well, the 49ers obviously do right now. Whenever the 49ers are clicking and you have to have just enough pass protection to allow Jimmy Garoppolo to thrive, he looks good in that system. But, I think he would look good with Peyton, with the New Orleans Saints. I honestly, in college, he was a volume thrower at Eastern Illinois. The whole idea that Jimmy Garoppolo can't win as a volume thrower is based on flawed logic. Just because Kyle Shanahan likes to run doesn't mean that Jimmy Garoppolo can't pass at volume. Shanahan wants to run at volume because the league can't defend that. The league is light. The league is fast on defense. So Deebo Samuel goes and starts taking names. George Kittle starts bruising people. You want the short pass game and the run game with Elijah Mitchell, who's been doing a tremendous job. You want that as a comparative advantage to inflict damage and inflict bruises on opposing teams. So because of that, the 49ers want to control game flow. It's not their goal to pass 35 to 40 times a game. But could Garoppolo do it? Absolutely. He's done it when the 49ers have needed to against Cincinnati, through 32 or 33 times against the Rams. But it's not the 49ers formula. And it's not because of Jimmy Garoppolo. It's mainly because of their pass protection. But you saw the throws yesterday, right? To Jawan Jennings. That's outside the numbers. It's been rumored that Garoppolo can't make that throw. Proven wrong yesterday. Deebo Samuel, outside the numbers. He's gone deep this season too, but the 49ers aren't a deep threat offense. They don't have the kind of burners that are going to give you streak routes time after time. They don't have the type of pass protection that's going to be able to hold up. They are a yak offense. They are an executor's offense. The QB needs to be an executor. He needs to distribute the football, and that's what Garoppolo has done so well for the most part this season. All right, guys. Is it possible for Jimmy to stay with the 49ers on a restructured contract? Yeah, but they would have to give him an extension. And I don't know if the team wants to give him an extension because Trey Lance is progressing. So if Trey Lance is progressing and you spent all that capital on him, it's tough. You could bring Jimmy back on a lame duck contract. I don't know if he'd be too happy about that, but a contract is a contract. So maybe the 49ers are able to get that done. Who knows? Maybe we see some drama this offseason. I think in all likelihood, Garoppolo, his value is raising and raising right now. The Jimmy Garoppolo game with the thumb yesterday, that's just going to make him more appealing to teams around the league that have questioned his durability, which was the biggest knock on Jimmy Garoppolo. In all likelihood, if you're confident with where Trey Lance is, you'll be able to recoup significant draft value for Jimmy Garoppolo, and you could move on like that. But if Jimmy keeps on delivering in the way that he generally has this season, and the 49ers go deep into these playoffs to the Super Bowl, well, you got to think long and hard about what's in front of you for the 49ers because Lance is still raw. We saw Lance's struggles in the short game against Houston. Garoppolo executes in the short game. Garoppolo sees the field. Garoppolo makes good decisions. It's totally possible that the 49ers don't want to part ways with that. It's just one of those things right now where they don't need to make a decision until they actually have to. If you can bring one back for the playoffs, who would it be? Mostert or Verrett? Well, this is a total hypothetical since you can bring neither back for the playoffs. But I think I would say Jason Verrett. I think that cornerback position, you put Verrett there with Emmanuel Mosley, have Ambry Thomas mix in. Thomas, despite how good the ending of that story was for the regular season yesterday, is still a rookie, still going to be a massive challenge for him in the postseason. The 49ers are going to be facing a big, big test. And the Cowboys are number one DVOA for a reason. These guys can play offense, they can play defense, and they can test out your cornerbacks. So it's going to be tough, but the 49ers won't get both of these guys. The key to Jimmy's success, giving him time to throw? Absolutely. And that's the key to everybody's success. If you give Jimmy Garoppolo time to throw, he'll see the field, he'll pick you apart. He's done that before. I don't know how many times people need to see it, but the 49ers haven't had plus pass protection until really this season. And even now, this season, they lost McGlinchey and they had to put in Tom Compton. They didn't have plus pass protection in the first half yesterday. Colton McKivitz was struggling. Brunskill, Compton were struggling. But they found a way to imprint the formula, get pass protection that was good enough down the stretch, and get the job done. How do you become on Raw? Well, you saw Trey Lance get way better over the course of the season working on the scout team. Of course, live action is the best action, but you're balancing multiple interests, right? The 49ers don't make the playoffs this season if Trey Lance starts every game. I can guarantee that. Garoppolo's efficiency was beaten out by only, 3 other quarterbacks in the NFL? Trey Lance wasn't going to be a top 5 efficiency QB. The 49ers would have lost more games that they otherwise won with Jimmy Garoppolo had Lance been playing every single game. So, I mean, yeah, if you wanted to punt the season, you would have started Trey Lance every single game. But the 49ers wanted to make the playoffs, and they did with Jimmy Garoppolo. So they realized that Trey Lance was so raw at the beginning of the season that playing him right away probably didn't make the most sense because you don't want to ruin his confidence. You want to, spoon feed him the offense, get him into position to compete at the NFL level, develop on the scout team where he gets to emulate Kirk Cousins one week, a pocket passer, and Russell Wilson the next week, more of a scrambler and a mobile quarterback, and get him to the level where he can truly compete with Garoppolo. Because people were sold snake oil this year, not by me, but people thought that Lance had a legitimate shot to beat Garoppolo in training camp, that it was some kind of open competition. It never was. If you know football, you know that it wasn't an open competition because the guy just doesn't come in from the FCS level, having thrown 318 college passes at North Dakota State and challenge an established veteran for a job in the NFL. I mean, Twitter might have thought so. Actual football people didn't think so. Okay, there's a difference between the two. Garoppolo always had a hold on this starting job. Lance was always the quarterback of the future. So Lance it wasn't no football person. Nobody around the 49ers thought that Lance had a legitimate shot and should be seeing the playing field on a frequent basis after throwing only 318 passes in college. It wasn't a good football idea. But they thought that if they could work on his skill set throughout the course of the season, in a controlled practice environment with the scout team where they could give Lance varied looks and allow him to really further his football education, they thought they could get him to a point where he could theoretically compete for a job on a contending team by 2022 or 2023 at the latest. And it just so happens that Jimmy Garoppolo is under contract with the 49ers through 2023. So the 49ers have plenty of runway here to allow Trey Lance to get into position to truly compete. Why not use that runway? That's what the 2-quarterback system was all about. It wasn't a system. There were times when the 49ers thought they would mix and match both on the field for certain, game situations. They didn't end up doing that. They ended up going with Garoppolo almost 100% of the time, with Lance being the guy on the back burner, working on the scout team, developing there. Lance was way more ready to play against the Rams yesterday because we speculated the 49ers might need 2 quarterbacks to finish this game due to the injury. So he had his helmet on. He was making those warm-up tosses on the sideline. But the 49ers did not end up needing him in that game because Garoppolo toughed it out and played well. But Trey Lance is much more ready now than he was at the start of the season, even despite the fact he didn't play a whole lot in games. And that's because you can get the job done in practice. All right, guys. Good time watching the 49ers yesterday. This was a fun video. Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, the quarterback room, got it done for the 49ers. So all good stuff. We're going to talk a little bit more later. I'm going to have a video about all the unheralded 49ers coming up here in a bit from Los Angeles. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care.